G'day guys, Josh here. Welcome to, well, what I think about the IEM Dallas coming up. And basically, it's going to be a big event, another big event on the calendar. We're casting these close qualifiers for the OC region with Grayhound qualifying in the end after taking down Vertex. And I gotta say, IEM Dallas, well, it's another one on the calendar. I actually expected IEM Rio to come back as well. But, so let's debate. What are you gonna say? Overall, we've got 16 teams, two groups, competing for some big dreams. Double elimination bracket as well. So basically, there'll be one qualifier for the quarterfinal from the lower bracket, a semi-finalist from the upper bracket, and one quarterfinalist from the upper bracket. So basically, winning all your BO3s will get you a free pass to the semi-final. Now, looking at the teams in here, it's Group A in particular, being Heroic. Let's say for Heroic overall, Heroic did very good in the major, but not good enough. They should be winning that major against Vitality. They shouldn't be losing to teams like Game Elite or anything like that. They are one of the best fundamental teams. They need to work on the composure. They just seemingly go helter-skelter or go missing during, the deeper runs that they have, especially against teams they normally wouldn't have this happening to at all. 90, one of the competitors from the SA scene, the South American scene, I don't see them going very far. Ever since that run where they went, I think it was 3-2 in the end after winning 3 straight BO3s, it's gone. That was 2 majors ago. And ever since that has occurred, they've just basically bombed out of tournament after tournament after tournament. Something has to really give. They've got no pressure here. They're not expected to do anything, but they've got to really perform at some of these events. Next up is Fnatic. Now, Fnatic, they had a bit of a helter-skelter run on the major. They really should have got to the Legend stage, should have got to that quarterfinals, but beaten by Apex. Now they're missing Crims as well, having to operate on a stand-in. I reckon this is going to be not good for Fnatic. I mean, you're missing one of your stalwarts in Crims. It's just going to be more pain on pain on pain on pain for Fnatic. Now for Mouz, they went 0-3 at the major and then didn't really play well at the major at all. They looked lost. They looked like basically no one was really firing up. They're in a big slump at the moment. Now Pim did say that he feels like they've reached their ceiling. I feel that they've just hit the first roadblock where they've got that negative mentality and they don't have the real grit to play out of it yet because it's a young team. And Dexter's got to lead this team effectively out of the woods and into a good mental mindset where they can just reset and get back where they started. They're great when their mental's great, but they're goddamn terrible when their mental's terrible. They bombed out of 0-3 in the major, unexpected, probably the first time, and basically no pressure this time around, but geez, they've got to perform here. They've got to somehow just fight out of their slump. They've done it before. They've played so many BO3s in a day and qualified for both events despite playing, I think it was 4 BO3s. But they can do this here. Furia, I've got to say, I see these guys bombing out. They got a favorable first matchup against OG, given that OG's got even worse roster issues and Furia's got just playstyle issues. But Furia, I gotta say, this Group A looks pretty weak for both G2 and Heroic to potentially take it for the taking. Given that all these teams like Furia are just having troubles, either their playstyle, their momentum, or just players in general, and this Furia roster in particular, they're not comfortable with what they're playing at the moment. This start that they've got brought in, none of them are comfortable in it. It seems like none of them may even want to play it. Maybe have to go back to the old Furia. What can they do here? Now you get to OG. OG, well, Dexter, they have now another bench, Flames potentially not renewing his contract. This team is not going to go well at IEM Dallas. Okay, this team is not going to go well at IEM Dallas. I could expect an 0-2 from OG. Wouldn't be too surprised. Basically, there's too many good parts of OG going in and out of this roster. That's just going to just tear them to pieces, tear themselves to pieces. It's not going to be the other teams doing it. It's just going to be themselves, unfortunately. G2, well, they did not get to Legend stage, and that was very disappointing from G2. Can't expect them to get in there at least 3-2, 3-1. But G2 went down 1-3, and the reason why they went down 1-3 is that they basically squandered so many man-up situations. The mid-round calls were horrendous. Seeking more information on a 4v2 on a CT side nuke when you've got 4 players? Mate, nuke's one of the hardest maps to get to any site. IGLs just need to calm down. The mid-round calls need to calm down. Nukes just needs to calm it down. They got a 4-2 advantage. Put the onus on the other team. Don't try to ego it or anything like that. Focus up, get the job done, use that number advantage to your advantage. They've got the players there, they've got the parts. Monacy, even though he had a bad major, is average, not beyond average as he usually is. Just focus up, you got to win this year. And a bit disappointing for G2 having a skin gambling website as a sponsor now. Very disappointed in that. Next up, we got Nouns, Semphasis team. Nouns did some damage at the NA RMR, but of course never got into the major in the end, as of course the 3 NA teams obviously just grounding through being Furia, Team Liquid, and obviously funnily enough, Fluxo, you also got a few other teams there that I completely forgot, but we'll find out later anyway. But I guess say overall, Nouns, they'll probably get outclassed by G2. Will they do any damage? Very, very unlikely, okay? Very, very unlikely. I feel like they're just a class below all the other teams in here other than 9Z, but they could get some unexpected wins given some roster changes, some standards being done from some of these tier 1 teams. And I'll talk about these standard issues a bit later, but let's just leave it to Nouns. Hopefully Nouns, if they get a few scalps, they can really show us that some of these tier 1 teams have really got to wake the F up, to be honest. Next up, we've got Faze v EG. EG are showing signs of slight improvement, but unfortunately, they are versing the hardest opponent they're going to get, which is Faze. And Faze are going to dismantle them. But anyways, let's talk about Faze. Faze, great team. They've got all the parts there. Karrigan, great IGL. I don't know how they didn't get to the Legend stage. They played so well. They played out of their minds against Na'Vi to eliminate Na'Vi. But, you know, versing Heroic first round, probably the hardest opponent they would get in that round of 8. And obviously got disposed of by Heroic. Heroic's just a better team in fundamentals overall. But Faze are not far behind. And Faze are, you know, hitting some peaks now as well, which is good to see. Next up, we got EG. EG are not going anywhere. Okay, as much as I love Vorborg and stuff like that, even with refresh in the roster as well, now on land, so they've got some good ping. I feel this team needs a lot more before they can really get into the deep tier 1 runs. And I think EG are going to win a match, but I think they're still going to get eliminated quite early on, which is going to yield some necessary criticism on this roster as well. This roster needs to perform. It's unfortunate that Vorborg's getting a lot of the onus put on him, given the fact it was previous rosters who really messed this up, not him. But, you know, he's got to be able to perform, got to pull some magic out of the hat there as well. Like I say, if they do beat Faze or get a map against Faze, I'll be incredibly, not get a map against Faze. If they do beat Faze in a BO1, I'll be incredibly surprised. If they do win some BO3s and do, you know, win against some really top tier teams in that lower bracket, it'll be good to see for EG. Ence v Ence. Now, Ence, geez, after such a dominant challenger stage, they meekly just gave up in the legend stage, and that was really disappointing to see. And just Ence, there's still got the players there. You know, players all still there. They still can get their roster and their job done. They got Snappy as the IGL. It's just they got to be able to put it on the board at this point. It's pretty much it. They've got to be able to do this. Some payers, DHR, nerds. I mean, they've probably got a bit of an extra boot camp put in them now. That's going to put results on the table. They versus Complexity, which is probably a bit of an easier one for them as well. But Complexity can potentially surprise here in Dallas because they've been going strength to strength, but also at the same time, Complexity have been frustratingly inconsistent, especially at the major, then ESL Challenger AU, where they provided a pretty decent performance, and then they set up an egg at the major, and it's just like, oh, Complexity, you know, you're getting so far, but just can't keep it consistent. Next, we've got Team Liquid. Team Liquid, given the fact this is going to be Nitro's last tournament, so it's going to be huge, they're going to be really playing their hearts out as well. They got a good, favorable first matchup against Astralis, and Astralis aren't really a strong team at the moment. They're just a shadow of their former selves, even with Device back in the roster. Overall, we could say Nitro's last, obviously, hurrah in the Dallas. And given the fact that Team Liquid got into the semi-finals, sorry, not semi-finals, the quarterfinals of the Legend stage in a major, with Nitro not even doing half the boot camp because he was going to his second child, is amazing. And then hearing that Yakinda was the IGL throughout the major, so they went through an IGL switch. Their rifle eye was an IGL, which is not ideal for Team Liquid. And they are able to get into the Legend stage. That is an indictment, obviously a benefit for Team Liquid, given the fact that somehow, how do they get to Legends? Like, that's pretty much it. They got to the top 8 with an IGL switch, a roster switch, and a retirement on the line. As, you know, person missing half the boot camp. I mean, any of these teams that didn't even get near Team Liquid are going to be cackling themselves, being like, how the hell aren't we making it when we've got a full team ready to go? There's no team issues in our area. And an issue of a team like Liquid had huge issues, they were able to make it. That's an indictment on all these teams who got eliminated early in the RMRs and in the majors. But either way, I see Liquid going quite far. They can put all their efforts on the line to farewell Nitro. Now we've got Astralis. Astralis don't expect it to make it very far. They don't have the firepower. The magic's gone, stars out, you know, stuff like that. They're not very good. Even with Device back, their results have been lackluster. They've been barely winning tier 2 team tournaments and stuff like that as well. Their new additions will be the first time to land. I reckon they're just going to get crushed here. I reckon Liquid will do them in first, and then basically whoever the versus in the lower bracket will just toddle them out. And the funny thing is, it could either be Cloud9 or Grayhound, and the irony is if they lose to Grayhound, that just basically sums out how they're going at the moment if they're losing to an AU team that they really shouldn't be losing against. Last but not least is Cloud9, and Cloud9 would have had a long rest given the fact they weren't in the major after losing to Faze in the RMRs. And it's unfortunate they had to, verse Faze in that last chance bracket. But hey, if you don't win your RMRs to begin with, and you choke BO1s against other teams, that you don't deserve to be in the major. Now, also, you've got some people who disagree with that much harshly and being like, hey, basically their seeding was bad, the major was bad. Nah, you gotta beat who's in front of you. Doesn't matter. No excuses. You are going to be versing these top teams later at this stage. But Cloud9 overall, they've got a really good roster. Shiro plays like he wants every single medal in his cabinet at this stage, every single trophy. He's an absolute gun for this team. All he needs is just his riflers to show up and provide some support, and Cloud9 are going far, very, very far. And Shiro is a bright, shining light for Gambit at the moment, and good that he's not going anywhere at the moment as well. And, not Gambit, sorry, Cloud9. And they're very, very happy he's not going anywhere at the moment. Grayhounds, they learned OC qualifier here. Obviously, no OC teams are going to get world ranking, but Grayhounds, well, they did surprise at the major, given the fact that they won 2 BO1s, which was completely unexpected, given the fact a lot of people still had them at 0-3, but not the 66% that had them previously at IEM Rio, given they went out 0-3 at Stockholm last time. And that was mainly due to the fact that they had an IGL switch, and basically the roster was really getting used to a system that they weren't really getting used that they weren't used to. Overall, I'm just going to say with Grayhound, probably expect them not to do too much. If they do beat Cloud9 and BO1, which is kind of likely as well, they can beat them. They beat them last time in IEM Rio, hence the storyline "Fuck Your Pick'ems" came to light. But they're looking a lot better than what they were in the last 2 majors. And I'm going to say, I won't be surprised if they win a BO1 or win a BO3, but I don't think they're going to make the playoff stage. If they make quarterfinals, it's huge. It's an overachievement for them as well. But yeah, it's going to be a really, really rough one, and really more of a educational piece for Grayhound, which is a sad story, to be honest, because I want Grayhound to be good, because obviously I'm an Australian caster and all, but I want to see them be able to achieve great things. They've got the players that are slowly improving as well. This team is actually, their ceiling is just being extended over and over again, and I'd love to see them to do well. Now, just to the final part, because I did talk about and hint about it in one of my team reviews as well, the major complaints, okay? We've had the normal sooks, okay? I could call them sooks at this stage, because they're a sook about everything. They sook it up, saying it was the worst major, worst seedings, all that stuff, and, tier 2 teams and undeserved teams sneaking through and taking spots. Mate, you just have to beat who's in front of you. If you can't beat who's in front of you, then you don't deserve to be in that major playoff. I mean, it's occurred a lot of times that some tier 1 teams are skimping and not getting important practice and really just sitting on their laurels. I mean, you can tell the tier 1 teams that have really, really just shaped up in that major. I mean, there was 3 in particular that made it to the last 8, okay? There was Team Liquid, which I'm going to say is indictment on everyone else that Team Liquid made it given their issues. Vitality, Zywoo, of course, an absolute god, and they still got, they looked up at their tier 2 teams and took them seriously. And Heroic, despite losing the game with Legion, they took all their opponents quite seriously in that tier 2 scene. I mean, if you're a tier 1 team and you are not going 3-0 or 3-1 in that Challengers bracket or Legends bracket, again with half a pool of tier 2 teams, then you're not legitimately tier 1. You've got things you've got to resolve, because these tier 2 teams are playing to survive, while you're not playing to survive at this stage, but you really should be playing to survive at this stage, given the fact that these tier 2 teams are coming up to you, and the big event that you want to win are going to be the areas where they will basically creep up on you and surprise you. Now, I don't buy into this any rubbish that seedings were bad and stuff like that. If you are blaming seedings for you getting eliminated, that is your issue big time, okay? Your issue big time for being eliminated. Of course, the seedings can yield unfair results. It can yield fair results as well, okay? It's good for bad. It happens where 2 top teams will be versing each other based on different seedings and stuff like that. It can happen. It's happened, multiple times in these double elim brackets where a team loses round 1 in an upset and another team loses round 2 and they verse each other in a lower bracket round 2 match. It does happen. And people need to stop sooking it up and being like, the seeding's bad, blah, 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 they should have eliminated here. We have bad tier games because of it. Nah, you got to win your games. And also going to say, if we're going to have bad tier games because our favorites can't win, then I don't know what to tell you. Should these favorites actually have an org, or should maybe, basically these, for example, maybe like, I don't know what tier 1 team performed very poorly. Maybe these other tier 1 orgs should buy out these tier 2 teams. Maybe these tier 2 teams should have the partner slot. Maybe we shouldn't have the Louvre agreement to begin with. If this is going to be the case where you'll sook it up when you lose the tier 2 teams because of seeding or something outside your control. Now, this is just the commentators and analysts who are saying this, okay? The players are probably agreeing with me, being like, hey, we've got to beat every single team in front of us, because if we're not, then the issue's on us. It's not on anything else. Seeding can be bad, but we've got to beat what's in front of us. I don't think Shiro was blaming bad seeding for them to verse Faze in the last chance bracket. They would have probably gone like, hey, those first 3 games where we lost, we should have beaten those teams. Okay? And that's pretty much it. Hope you guys like the content. Like, comment, subscribe.